Pete Hegseth has demonstrated, I think, numerous times that he is certainly unqualified for the position, and also seems to be flailing in terms of what his day-to-day responsibilities should be.
First of all, do you think we got to the point? I know that President Trump in the past has defended Mike Waltz, but do you think he was always going to have to go?
Well, I think the policy differences became more apparent as time went on between Donald Trump and Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz is more in the traditional hawkish realm of the Republican Party in terms of being much more engaged internationally and maybe even a more interventionist policy. While I think Donald Trump has tried to avoid major conflicts. And when we're dealing with Ukraine and we're dealing with Gaza and Iran and other things in Yemen, I do think those differences were coming through. But also, I think Donald Trump lost a fair amount of confidence and trust in Mike Waltz after the Signal Gate fiasco. And I think Donald Trump really wondered, why was it that a American journalist was put on this chat group by Mike Waltz, and what was this journalist's phone number doing in his phone? So I just think there was a combination of factors that led to this. But also, I think it's a lot easier to remove a national security advisor and replace him because it's not a Senate confirmed position. And so I do think he wanted to push Walz out from that inner circle of advisors that were deliberating foreign policy, and sending him off to the United Nations, I think, is a fairly safe but distant landing pad for Mike Waltz.
You mentioned about the Signal Group, and at the time, Donald Trump very much defended Mike Waltz and said he didn't need to apologise. So do you think, I mean, in your assessment with your experience, how damaging was that whole incident?
Well, I think it certainly was damaging to the individuals involved, to Mike Waltz and to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense in particular. But Donald Trump, I think, remains loyal to those who are loyal to him, and I do think that Mike Waltz, tried to do his utmost to demonstrate his loyalty to Donald Trump in the past couple of months. But again, I just think that Trump decided that it's probably best to throw Waltz out. It's a way to also alleviate some of the pressure that he feels on Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. So it was very damaging to Mike Waltz's position. And we don't know exactly whether or not there was any compromise of that intelligence information that was put on Signal Chat. But clearly, this is something that is unacceptable from the standpoint of how you handle classified information. And so it shows I think partly the carelessness, but also maybe the amateurish behavior of some of the people who are not used to being in these very high profile and very sensitive positions. So hopefully it was a lesson learned, but I think recent reports are that they continue to use Signal for communications among the senior leaders.
That point that you raised there about, is this just the danger of putting people in jobs in the administration who don't have prior experience in that field?
Well, I think there is a fairly wide consensus that Pete Hegseth really didn't have the experience and the credentials to be Secretary of Defense. But the Republicans in the Senate feel a certain obligation to confirm individuals that Donald Trump nominates for these positions. But I think ever since he was confirmed in the position, Pete Hegseth has demonstrated, I think, numerous times that he is certainly unqualified for the position, and also seems to be flailing in terms of what his day-to-day responsibilities should be. I think he's much more concerned about leaks. He's much more concerned about his public appearance. He was a news commentator, and so I think he is somebody who really is concerned with his public persona, as opposed to running the Pentagon and the U.S. military.
Let's talk about Mike Waltz. Obviously, he is the first person in this second Trump administration to go, although he is being moved to the UN. What do you make of the reports which are coming out of the US from several officials, albeit anonymous, saying that maybe the Trump administration is putting Waltz forward to be the US ambassador at the UN because it will have to be confirmed by Senate and it might not be. And therefore it means that Trump doesn't have to sack him. He will go without Trump having to fire him.
Well, I certainly think that's a possibility. I think that Donald Trump didn't want to just throw Mike Waltz sort of over the fence. He wanted to give him a soft landing, and the UN position is a very prestigious one. Again, it is distant from the inner circle in the White House and from those foreign policy deliberations. Mike Waltz is going to have, some challenges when he goes through that confirmation process. Certainly, the Democrats are going to be asking very pointed questions about what happened with that signal chat, and also some of the challenges and, quite frankly, some of the hiccups and failures that the Trump administration has faced during these first several months on the job. And the national security advisor is the person who is supposed to be orchestrating the national security agenda for a president. And so it's unclear whether or not Mike Waltz will be able to get through the confirmation process. But again, usually the Republican senators are willing to give individuals a pass if they've been nominated by Donald Trump.
So we understand that Marco Rubio, obviously Secretary of State, is also now going to be taking over Mike Waltz's role as National Security Advisor. Is that possible? That sounds like two huge roles.
Well, he already has three roles as the Secretary of State. He's the director right now of USAID and also the National Archivist. And now one more role is being laid on him. It's too much for one person. The National Security Advisor is the person who really needs to be at the White House advising the president on an ongoing basis. He needs to be the one that calls the interagency together, chairs meetings in the White House Situation Room. It's a full-time job. It's more than a full-time job. And so I don't see how one person can do that job well and also be Secretary of State, which involves a fair amount of travel and engagement with foreign partners. So clearly, I think this is going to be an interim assignment. Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor, but it was a much different time. Things are much different now with the flow of information that takes place instantaneously. Again, I don't think that this is something that is going to go on for a long period of time.
Mr. Brennan, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you, Chloe.